Hello team and welcome back to the channel. So it's been quite long since I recorded such video with this kind of face cam, but yeah, here I am recording this video. Now before we start with the video discussing about what things we are going to do, I would recommend you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. You will find tons of amazing hands-on videos on DevOps as well as on cloud DevOps, and as you know, we try to focus on real-time scenarios which could be useful for interviews as well as for people who are learning DevOps, right? Now talking about today's project, so today's project will be a complete full stack application deployed from scratch, and after deployment we are going to monitor it also, right? So let me explain you a little bit detail about the project that we are going to do today. First of all, in order to create the application, for that also I'm going to create a share you a resource which if you follow you'll be able to learn Java very easily, and you will be able to write the code for the application itself. So if you want, you can follow that as well. Talking about DevOps part, so first of all we are going to set up our infrastructure. We are going to set up all the virtual machines required, the tools like Jenkins, SonarQube, Nexus, all those things. Plus we are going to set up EKS cluster where we are going to deploy the application, and then we are going to write the CI/CD pipeline from scratch. The point of writing the pipeline from scratch is that so that you can understand very easily how these kind of pipelines are written from scratch. Once we deploy the application, so we'll be making sure that the URL on which our application is accessible is not a random URL. Instead, we are going to use our custom domain, so that for example, if I deploy the application through load balancer in EKS cluster, we get some URL from Amazon, right? So what we want that, let's say I have a custom domain, let 𝗖cie.com, right? So what I want that my application should be accessible on that specific URL 𝗖cie.com, right? That part also we are going to cover today. In addition to that, we are going to make sure that we are monitoring the application as well. After the deployment, we need to make sure that we are monitoring it so that we can understand how it's performing. If it's getting kind of issues or anything, that also we can check out using the monitoring feature. So all these things, in reality, I'll tell you that once you implement this whole application, it will be like a DevOps crash course for you. Because as I mentioned, everything we are going to do from scratch, plus side by side, I'm going to explain everything in detail. Why we are doing this, why we are writing this, everything, right? So yeah, make sure to watch this video till end, because again, if you are not watching, you might face some issues like you get stuck somewhere, because I want that you should be able to follow the tutorial properly till the end. Then only you'll be easily able to deploy the application properly. Okay, so yeah, for that reason I'm saying that make sure to watch this till end and follow the steps that I am doing, right? Plus all the details will be in the description. And also team, for those who are looking for dedicated training sessions, DevOps and cloud, DevSecOps and cloud, basically the batch 6 has started from 3rd of August, and if you are interested, you can check it out. All the description and all the links will be in the description of this video. So yeah, if interested, you can check it out. Now with that being said, let's get started. So team, before we jump into implementation of this whole project, let me show you the project and its functionalities. First of all, we have a login register page and login page as well as logout also. So first of all, we can register ourselves here. I can provide the details like ADI, it will be the username and password. We can just set up something. Okay. Once you register yourself, it will be telling you that registration is successful. After that, you can click on login, provide the details, and now you will be logged in. Once you log in, other people who have posted any kind of things will be available for you to visit, and it will be also showing the information like who has posted what. Okay. That is one thing. Let's say you want to also post something, so you can say something like that ki I am learning DevOps by DevOps Shack. That you can put. Sorry about my mistake. Yeah, sorry about spelling mistake. I'm typing a little bit faster or trying to do that. Okay, so yeah, these things. So all kind of like blog post or whatever something is putting, all will be visible to you from here. Okay. And yeah, there are multiple users created. For example, let's say I want to log out, I'll log out. And if I want to log in, I can log in with a different username. Okay. Now we are logged in with username Aditya. Okay. Still all those things will be visible, or something like whoever else is posting some things. Okay. So this is good. And yeah, home page is this one, the same page, and we have logout also enabled. And once you log out, it will be showing in green color. So in simple words, I can say this is quite minimalistic application, simple yet useful application, because it has register page, login page, logout page, plus home page also. Okay. So yeah, this is what we are going to implement today, and I hope this is going to be useful for you. So yeah, with that being said, let's get started. So team, now let me explain you the whole architecture that we are going to perform today. Okay. So first of all, this is what is going to happen. First of all, a developer is going to push the code to a GitHub repository, and inside GitHub repository we are keeping the application source code plus source code for Terraform, which is going to be utilized for creating the EKS cluster, okay, that we are having. Then once code is pushed, it's going to trigger the Jenkins pipeline, or we can start Jenkins pipeline manually also. After that, we are going to perform the compilation of the source code. Compilation basically is done to find out if there is any syntax based errors or not in our pipeline. Once that is done, we are going to proceed with test cases. So developer or testing team might have written unit test cases. So we are going to execute it to test out the code. After that, we are going to utilize 𝗂𝗏𝗃 tool to perform the vulnerability scanning on our source code, or basically file system, as well as on the dependency that is being utilized in the project. After that, we are going to utilize SonarQube, which is going to used for code coverage and code quality check to find out if there are any bugs or any other kind of issues in the code. Then we have Maven tool, which is going to be utilized for building the application and creating an executable jar file. Okay. After that, once we have the jar file ready, we are going to push that jar file to Nexus repository, which is specifically created for storing artifacts. Okay. After that, we are going to build the Docker image of the application, and we are going to keep this application on the private Docker registry. Okay. After that, we are going to scan the Docker image as well, so that we can find out if there are any kind of vulnerabilities in the Docker image or not. Once everything is fine, we are going to push the Docker image to Docker Hub registry repository, which is private. Next thing that we need to do is basically we need to push this Docker image to private registry, and then we are going to deploy the application to Kubernetes cluster. This Kubernetes cluster is set up on EKS, Elastic Kubernetes Service, that is on AWS, right? Now, one question you might be thinking, Aditya, since repository, the Docker repository is private, then how Kubernetes is going to find the image or get the image? So for getting the image, we are going to set up a secret also inside Kubernetes, which will be having the credentials for private Docker registry. Okay. So yeah, this will be there, and once we have deployed the application, so we might be getting the application with some load balancer URL, which is not very user friendly or hard to remember. Okay. So application is deployed and is running. So after that, what we are going to do, we are going to map a domain. Okay. So we are going to map a domain using GoDaddy. GoDaddy is a platform which will help you to get custom domain and map it with your some other URL. Okay. So that, see, the reason for mapping it, so that once application is deployed, we should be able to access it from some user-friendly URL like devopshack.com, aditya-testing.in, these kind of URLs. After that, we are going to monitor the website using tools like Blackbox Exporter, Prometheus, and Grafana. Blackbox Exporter will be getting the metrics, forwarding it to Prometheus, and that eventually will be shared to Grafana to present to us in a proper user-friendly format. And this is what we are going to do completely from scratch. Again, I am saying you might be facing issues if you don't follow the video till end, because there are a lot of things that might not be present in the documentation. So I would recommend highly that make sure to follow this video till end. It will be a good learning process for you as well. Okay. Now, with that being said, let's get started with the hands-on part. So team, now let's get started. And also team, I have a different monitor this side. So mostly I'll be looking this side only. Okay. Now, talking about the steps that we are going to perform. So first of all, we need to set up a GitHub repository where we are going to keep our source code that I'll be showing you. After that, we are going to set up some of the required servers and tools. So for that, first of all, we are going to set up Jenkins for CI/CD part. Then we are going to set up SonarQube for the static code analysis. Then we are going to set up Nexus for the artifact management. And then we are going to set up monitoring tools which will be needed for monitoring our application. After that, we are going to configure these tools, because once we install these tools, Jenkins and all, we need to make sure that they are configured and ready to be utilized. Okay. After that, we are going to write the pipeline, CI/CD pipeline from scratch. And yeah, one more thing, whatever I'm saying, listen everything very carefully, because I'll be explaining very much different concepts for everything. Okay. So make sure to listen everything very carefully. So we are going to set up CI/CD pipelines. We are going to write it from scratch, that you need to watch very carefully. And then we need to set up EKS cluster where we are going to deploy the application. After that, we are going to trigger the pipeline, which is going to perform the CI/CD and eventually deploy the application to EKS cluster. And after that, once application is deployed, generally the URL with which we are going to access, it's not very user friendly. Sometimes we have some IP address plus some port to access the application. So in order to make sure that we are not utilizing or we are not using any kind of IP address to access the application, I'm going to assign a custom domain name to my application, so that next time if I want to access the application, I can provide the URL something like this, like 𝗖𝗁.com, DevOpsShack.com, these kind of URLs, which are very user friendly, right? So once that part is done, we are going to monitor the application. Okay, so these are the steps that we are going to perform, and now let us understand the first step, which is to set up a repository. So we'll go to github.com. Here let us create a repository. I'm going to call it as full stack blogging app. Okay, and yeah, for security reasons you should always keep your repository private. So yeah, but don't worry, I'll be sharing you the repository. So for now I'll keep it private. Click on create repository, and then once we have repository and everything ready, what we need to do at this point, in order to access or perform any kind of things alongside the repository on GitHub or GitLab, you need to have the token. Basically, long ago we utilized username and password, but at this point we need to use username and token. So where do we get the token? So for that you need to click on your profile picture, scroll down to settings, and then scroll down on left side to developer settings. There you will find this third option, personal access token, which is extended version of PAT. Okay, here you need to create a token. You need to click on generate new token, click on classic, provide a name, select expiration, and select the scope. Basically, like what kind of access you want the token to be having. For example, like, do you want your token to have the permission to delete repo? No. So depending on the requirement, you can choose all of them. Generally what I do, I avoid using like selecting this and delete packages. So avoiding these two, like other than these two, I select all the permission. So as of now I have already created. So once you select the scope, you can click on generate token and make sure to copy that token somewhere safe, because it won't be visible afterwards. Okay, now let us go back to the repository, and okay, now in order to push your code to GitHub repository, what you need to have, first of all, make sure that you are having a tool known as Git Bash. It is available for free and you can utilize it very easily. So you can simply search Git Bash, click on the first link, download. So based on your what kind of operating system you are having, you can download it. I am having Windows, so I'll be downloading Windows. Okay, once this is done, what we can do, we can go on the location where we have kept the source code. So now this is the folder which contains the source code for my application. Now what you have to do is you have to go into that folder location, right click, click on some more options and click on Git Bash here. Now once you open Git Bash, now we can run the write the commands for cloning the repository and pushing the source code. So first we are going to type the command as git clone, then repository URL, which is this one, right? So I'll open this, get the URL. I'm using HTTPS URL because generally that is the one which is being widely used. Okay, click and you can see it says invalid username and password. So because as of now this Git Bash, it is not having the token available. So what I'm going to do, simply run the command again. This time when I run the command again, it's going to create a, it's going to bring a dialog box. You can see connect to GitHub. Click on token and here we need to put the token. So once you have downloaded a token, you can copy that. Don't use this token because this token will be, I'll be deleting it afterwards. Okay, so once you do that, you can see now we have cloned the repository. Once you have cloned it, you can go inside the folder that got created. Okay, now if I go back here, now we are in this folder where we have the source code and we have just cloned the repository. Now from here, as soon as we went into this folder, GitHub repository folder, automatically you can see it understood that this is on main branch. How did this happen? So if I go inside this, you'll see there is a folder .git, which is a hidden folder. So this Git folder is going to contain all the detailed information about the repository. Okay, based on that, Git Bash automatically understood that okay, this is a Git repository folder and currently we are on main branch. Okay, next step, what we are going to do, we are going to copy all those things except this folder. Okay, and we are going to paste it inside here, inside the repository folder. Once we have done that, then we need to push it. So for that we have the steps git add. First we need to add these files, then we need to commit them with a proper message. For example, I'll write the message as git commit -m for message, and here we can type added the source code. Okay, and finally we can simply run the command git push, and now we don't have to provide the personal access token because it is saved now. Okay, so this is done, and we can go back here, refresh the page on our repository, and we can see all the files are present. So team, as of now we have set up our repository and we have pushed our source code, as you can see. Next up, what we need to do, we need to create certain virtual machines where we are going to set up Jenkins, SonarQube and Nexus. Okay, so let us follow that as well. So I'll go to a AWS account, and here before anything, first of all you need to go to security groups. Here let me show you this ports that needs to be opened on our machine. Okay, so maybe you can take a screenshot. These are the ports that I have opened on my machine, specifically this thing 2000 to 11,000, because this is a port range where most of the things will be used. Okay, most of the ports will be getting utilized. So yeah, you can take a screenshot and you can open these ports. Once you have done that, you can get started by creation of virtual machines. So first let me create two virtual machines which I am going to utilize for SonarQube and Nexus, because SonarQube and Nexus, for them we are going to create T2 medium machine, which will be more than enough. Okay, here I'm going to select Ubuntu machine, version will be 24.04 LTS version, and then instance type. So here we are going to go with T2 medium. One thing that you should understand very clearly, that for Nexus minimum 4 GB is required. That means minimum 4 GB storage should always be present, because if not, then you are going to get lot of issues. Okay, select the key pair. Now if you are doing this for the first time, you need to click on create new key pair, provide a name, make sure it's RSA, and format is PEM file, and make sure click on create key pair. That will make that will download the key pair, new key pair on your local machine. Okay, so since I already have that downloaded key, so I'll be just selecting the key pair. Okay, after that security group, so I'll click on select existing one, and here we are going to select the one which we have just configured, right? The security group that I showed, the ports, specific ports, right? Here storage, I'm going to go with 20 for each of them. Click on launch, and let's go to instances, and here let us rename them to something else, SonarQube, and similarly this one will be Nexus. Click on OK. Now one more machine we have to create, which is going to be for Jenkins, and for Jenkins we are going to create a T2 large machine, because we are not using any specific slave. We are going to build our pipelines on Jenkins master itself. So for that reason I need to take the bigger machine which can handle all the pipelines. Okay, so here I'm going to go with T2 large, and keep here I'm going to select the one that I have just available on my system. Select the security group, storage I'm going to go with 25. Okay, click on launch instance, and these machines are created. Let me refresh. Okay, so these machines are available. You can see two machines, we have T2 medium and one machine T2 large. Next up, what we have to do, we have to connect to them, right? Basically to get access to the virtual machine terminal, so that we can run the commands to install. So for that, you need to make sure that you are having 𝗵𝗶𝗃 installed on your machine. The reason that I say to use 𝗵𝗶𝗃, because I know that lots of you are there who is using their office laptop for practice, and usually no external application installation is allowed. So in that case, you can go with home edition free version of 𝗵𝗶𝗃. Click on download now and click on portable. Once you download this portable version, it's going to download a zip file of the application. That once you extract this this structure, you will get, and you can simply click on 𝗵𝗶𝗃 personal. So interesting thing about portable application is that they don't need to be installed like any other application. You just need to extract them, get the folder structure of all the files needed for the application, and run them at any time. This will help you, like you don't have to install them on your system. You simply have to download the zip and start using it. So now double click here, and yeah, so let me remove the previous machines that I created so that I can show you from scratch. Now first thing that you should be doing, click on settings, click on configuration, and then SSH, and then make sure that this option is checked on, SSH keep alive. Why I'm saying that, because sometimes the terminal might be left unhandled. You might be having some work, you are going somewhere. In that case, what happens generally, terminal will disconnect, which is going to cause a lot of issues. So in order to do not allow the terminal to disconnect, make sure you have turned on this option. Okay. Now click on session and let us connect to each of the virtual machines that we created. Now talking about first virtual machine. So let me close this, and yeah, first one we have Jenkins. So I'll get the IP address of Jenkins. Go back to Mobac Storm, provide the public IP address here. 1 second, where is it? Copy the IP address, then yeah, paste the public IP address here. Then username. So since we have created Ubuntu machine, so by default the username will be Ubuntu. Okay. Ubuntu. Then advanced SSH. Here we need to select the private key which we are going to utilize for authentication. So I'm going to browse to the location where we have the PEM file. Select it, and this seems fine to me. Click on OK. Okay. And meanwhile, let me close this and let me rename this again so that it's easier to use. Okay. I'm going to rename this as Jenkins, and I'm going to give it a red color also so that it's easier. Okay. Now Jenkins is connected, so now we are going to create a duplicate of it. Rename this to SonarQube. Okay. And we need to just change the IP address because the rest of the things are same. The key that we are utilizing, it's same only, right? So we can go back to AWS here, open the SonarQube machine, get the IP address and paste it here. Okay. Now this is SonarQube. Now again, one more time we are going to create a duplicate session. Rename this, and this one will be Nexus. Here we can change the color, and we have to change the IP address, so which we can get on AWS account. Here click on Nexus, get the public IP address, copy that and paste it here. Okay. Now all three machines are created. Now we need to these virtual machines are created, but this Jenkins, Nexus, SonarQube is not at all installed as of now, right? So we need to do that. So let us open all this one by one. Okay. Now in case of Jenkins, first thing that we need to know that the prerequisite for Jenkins installation is that we should be having a Java on our machine. Okay. So now before we install Java, first command that you should always run when you create a new virtual machine is sudo apt update. Once you run this, it's going to update all the packages in the default repository so that they are available for usage. Okay. So let's wait for this to complete. Now, one question you might be thinking, Aditya, which version of Java I should be installing? So at this point, in most places we are using JDK 17, while the latest one is around, I think, 22. Okay. So what I suggest, first of all, search here as just type here as Java. You can see that Java is not found, right? But here you get the commands to install Java. Here you can see 17, 21, 22 is latest. My suggestion, go with 17 as of now, because it's the version that is being used in most of the companies as of now. Do not install JDK 11 because it's going to cause a lot of issues. Okay. So I'm going to install JDK 17. One more thing, team, you might be thinking, what is the meaning of this headless? So, you know, a Java version that is not having any kind of UI or user interface, that is headless. Okay. Now let's wait for this to complete. Okay. So this is done. Next step, we need to run the commands to install Jenkins. So for that, you can simply go to Google. Here you can search for install Jenkins or Ubuntu, or install Jenkins. The first link that comes, which is the official page of Jenkins, you can click on first one, and here you see the option installing Jenkins. So depending on where exactly you are going to install it, you can see the guide, right? So for us, it's going to be Linux, and on this side you can select the flavor of Linux which you are having. So I'm having currently Ubuntu machine. Click on that, right? One more thing, why I was saying that do not go with OpenJDK 11, because you can see is no longer included in Debian 12. Okay. And again, I'm saying specifically it's talking about Debian 12. Yeah. So still, you know, if you are using any other machine, still it's going to cause the issues. So for that reason, I'm suggesting that just go with OpenJDK 17. Okay. And now these are the commands that we need to install, we need to run in order to install Jenkins. So for that, what I'm going to do, either we can run those commands in like one by one, or we can simply create a script. vi1.sh, paste these scripts here. Let me put -y here and save this. And let us give the permission for this file to get executed by sudo chmod +x 1.sh. Once I do this, the file is executable. Now you can see green in color, right? Now I can simply execute it by running this command /1.sh. Once I run this, so whatever commands were mentioned in our script, it's going to get executed one by one. Okay, and this will lead to installation of Jenkins on this machine. So let's wait for this to complete. Okay, before we get started with the configuration of Jenkins, one more thing I have to say. Since we are going to utilize Docker also, so I'll be installing Docker here itself. Okay, so for that I can run the command as Docker. We can see that Docker is not present, but we get the command for installation. So I'll paste it here -y. Now for Docker, one thing you should understand that by default, running Docker commands is available only to root user. That means if any other user on Ubuntu machine wants to run Docker commands, they have to either use sudo or they should be having permissions. Okay, so what we can do, basically, in order to, two ways can be done. For example, like I can add Ubuntu user to Docker group, so that Docker group, whatever permission is there, that will be given to Ubuntu user also. Second thing, what I can do, I can run small command which is going to give permission to all the users on this machine. For example, this one. Now everyone on this, every other user on this machine will be having permission to execute Docker commands. Okay, yeah. Now next, Jenkins like installation is done, we have to configure it. So I'll copy the public IP address, and one thing that we should know, that by default Jenkins runs on port 8080. That means if I want to access it, I'll go on browser, paste the public IP address colon and port 8080, click enter, and you can see it is saying sign in into Jenkins, right? Now first, in order to get started, we need to have administrator password, and what is the, where exactly it is stored, so we can get it on this location. Okay, copy that. Now we can get the value of those administrator password by running the cat command, but as you can see here, it's located inside var folder. That means we do not have permission to view the files directly inside var folder, because var folder is like, it requires elevated permission, like high level permission. That means only root user can directly go inside it and see all the things, right? So what we can do, we can simply use this command sudo cat. By sudo, what I'm saying, that I have now elevated permission and I want to view the contents of the file. Click enter and we get the contents of the file. I can copy it and I can paste it here. Click on continue, and this is going to start the installation. Now here you see this option, customize Jenkins. Now it is basically asking what kind of plugins you want to install for the first time. So we have two options, select plugins to install or install suggested plugins. So I would recommend always go with suggested plugins, because Jenkins knows better which plugins are mandatory or required for it. Okay, so click on that, and depending on your virtual machine size, network speed and everything, it's going to take some time. So we'll leave it as it is now, and now we can go to Nexus. Now first command you need to run sudo apt update, which is going to update all the packages so that they become available for usage. Okay, so let's wait for this to complete, and once it is done, then we can get started. Now SonarQube and Nexus I'm going to install using Docker. So I'm going to create a Docker container of these two machines, because it's much easier to get started with. It's much easier to set up these servers. Okay, so first thing that we need to install, sorry about that, Docker. Okay, I'll run this command -y. Now as I mentioned, when you install Docker, only root user has permissions to execute Docker commands, right? And we can give other users to run the command or specific user. But in this case, since we are not going to run so many Docker commands, a single Docker command we have to run, so we can simply run it using sudo. We don't have to modify the permissions. Okay, so I can run the command as sudo docker run. Basically what I'm saying, I'm going to create a container out of Docker image. So I can run the command sudo for elevated permission docker run to pull an image and to create a container. Then -d for running this command in detachable mode. That means whatever logs are coming while creation of container, it's going to be in background and we won't be able to see it. Okay, after that we need to publish the ports. So two ports we need to define. One port is going to be the host port, which is the port on this virtual machine where we are going to access the specific container. Second port is going to be the port open on the container where the Nexus will be running. Okay. So first is host port, which is going to be 8081, because by default in general Nexus runs on port 8081, but this host port can change, but the container port should not be changing, because in container 8081 is the port on which Nexus will be running, right? But host port can change. Okay. Now here we need to provide a Docker image. Now in case you are doing this for the first time or you do not have much experience with it, you can simply go on Google and you can search here as Nexus Docker image, and it will take you to the Docker Hub page where you can get the name of Docker image. Okay, this is the name of Docker image, the LTS version or the latest version. Not the LTS version, this is the latest version. Okay, so I'll copy that Docker image name, paste it here, and it's going to download that Docker image and create a container out of it. And why we are able to run Docker commands? Because we have applied sudo before it, right? So let's wait for this to complete. Yeah, meanwhile it is getting done. Okay, it's done. Okay, now in case of Nexus, sorry, you can see now it's giving permission denied. Why? Because I ran the command without sudo. So I can simply add sudo again. Okay, we can see that Docker container for Nexus is created, but if you try to access it immediately, it may not be accessible. For example, because Nexus is a kind of server that takes quite some time as compared to any other machine to completely come in running state. So I'll put it here, and as I mentioned that we are going to access it on port that we defined for our host, which is 8081, right? Click enter, and it might give some error here because you can see it's not reachable. As I say, why this is happening? Because Nexus is a machine, Nexus is a server that is going to take some time to completely come in running state. You can see now it's coming in running state, right? That's good. Now same thing we can do for SonarQube. We can set up SonarQube machine server as well. So I can run the command as sudo apt update. Let's wait for this to complete, and we are going to create a Docker container for SonarQube as well. Okay, so let's wait for this. Okay, this is done. So now we need to install Docker on it, and I'm going to install docker.io -y, and let's wait for it. Again, I'm saying that here also I'm not going to modify the permissions for Docker commands because just 1 or 2 commands we have to run, right? So let's wait for this. Okay, so this is done. Now we can run the command to create the Docker container. So we have to run sudo docker run -d for detachable -p, and this time I'm going to assign this virtual machine a port of 9000, and 9000 will be the port open on the container itself. Here we can provide the Docker image name. So Docker image name you can use SonarQube:LTS-community. Basically there are multiple versions of SonarQube: free version, paid version, enterprise version. So I'm using the free version, which is like community version, and that also I'm using LTS version, which is long-term support version. Okay, click on enter, and it's going to create a container for SonarQube as well. So let's wait for this to complete, and then we can access SonarQube on the browser itself. Now as you see, we have installed Jenkins, Nexus, and SonarQube, but we have to configure them so that they become ready for usage. Okay, so let's wait. Let me get the IP address of SonarQube as well. You can see container is created. Okay, we can check it by running the command sudo docker ps. We can see container is created, right? Now we can go in browser, put the public IP address of SonarQube machine, and port will be 9000. Click enter. You can see SonarQube is starting, right? Now let us configure one by one these machines. First, go to Jenkins. Here plugins are installed, and we have to create our first admin user. So I'm going to provide name as Aditya. Here also I'll just put as Aditya. Confirm password again Aditya. Full name Aditya Jaiswal. Email you can put anything because it's not going to be verified as of now. Click on save and continue. and save and finish. Okay, now Jenkins is ready for usage now. Coming to Nexus, so in order to first we have to sign inside Nexus. For that we can click on sign in, and here you can see username is going to be admin, but password it is stored on some different file which is located in Nexus data. Basically this is the file where we have the password. So as you know, like we have set up Nexus using Docker container. That means we have to go inside Docker container to find this file, right? So let us do that as well. So here I can run the command as, I can run sudo docker exec means execute, then -it. -it means interactive terminal. I want to create an interactive terminal for my Docker container. And then after that you need to put Docker container ID, and then you want to define like what kind of terminal you want. So I want the bash terminal. So I can type bin/bash, click enter. And now you can see now we are inside the Docker container of Nexus. So if I run ls command, we can see all the files. Now where we have to go inside? So we have to go inside Sonar type work. Here you see Nexus 3, go inside it. Now here first file that you see, you can tell me admin.password. That is the file that we are looking for, right? So I can run the command as cat, copy this file, paste it here, click enter. And this is the initial admin password for our Nexus. And make sure that you are copying from here to here and do not copy bash thing also, right? Copy that, we can paste it here, click on sign in, click on next, and we have to set up new password here. So I can set up a password. Same thing I'll put here. Click on next. Now this is basically anonymous access. So if you want that people should be able to download artifacts or Docker images from this Nexus server with a credential or without credentials. So if I enable in anonymous access, then no credentials will be needed. So for now I'll just go with that. Click on next and click on finish. Okay. That means now we are logged into Nexus as well. So let us do the same kind of thing in SonarQube. Now when you set up SonarQube, the initial admin password is going to be admin. So copy that and it will be password as well. Click on login. Here we need to set up a new password. So I'm going to set up a new password for admin user. Click on update. Now all these three machines are configured. Now what we can do, we can start the pipeline writing process. Okay. So first let us go to Jenkins. Okay. Now before we start using Jenkins, we have to install certain plugins that are mandatory because that will be needed for us to work with properly, like work with these kind of integrations like Nexus integration, then SonarQube integration and all those things. So for that we can go to manage Jenkins. Now okay, click on dismiss. This is not needed as of now. Click on plugins and click on available plugins. Here we can install the required plugins. Okay, first you need to install SonarQube. Then we are going to install config file provider, this one. This will be needed for Nexus part because we need to set up credentials also for Nexus, right? Then we have Maven integration, that will be needed, and also this one, pipeline Maven integration, yeah, this thing. And after that what we need to have, SonarQube, yeah, Kubernetes also will be needing. So for Kubernetes, this one, then this one and this one, and this should be fine. Yeah, these four you can install it. Anyway, you know, if you even if you don't select these three, even if you select just this one, still these will be getting installed because they are this one is dependent on these plugins. Okay, coming back here, so we are going to set up install Docker plugin also, and let me see, Docker and this one, Docker pipeline. Make sure that I have selected that as well. And after that, I don't think like we need anything else, but yeah. Also to make sure that you note down these plugins, because if you are going for interviews, they generally ask this, like what kind of plugins you have used, which plugins you have used, and explain a little bit about those plugins. So make sure that you remember these plugins, and you will see also how we are utilizing these plugins. Okay, so click on install, and this might take a little bit of time because these plugins will be getting installed one by one. Okay, Meanwhile, what we can do, we can create a token here in SonarQube because that will be required for us. So click on administration, security, users, and then we can generate a token. I'll provide a token as S, click on generate, copy that and keep it somewhere safe because we are going to utilize it. Okay, this part is done. Close this. Coming back to Jenkins. So I guess all the plugins are already installed, right? Now, when you install a plugin, you need to configure them also, and the plugins that those installed plugins that can be configured through this section, tools. So click on that. Now scroll down to end here, Docker. So we'll just put a name here as Docker. Click on install automatically, select installer, first one, select latest, it's fine. Maven, so we are going to use Maven also, so I'm going to give it a name as Maven 3. Version will be latest and I'm not changing it. Scrolling up, SonarQube installation, so here I'm going to provide a name as sonar-scanner. Version also it is like kind of latest, so we don't need to change it. Scrolling up, JDK. Now by default one JDK is already present because that we installed as a prerequisite. In case if you want to use a different version of JDK, because Jenkins allows us to use multiple versions of JDK wherever which one is needed. So for that, what you have to do, we have to go to manage Jenkins plugins and we have to install one more plugin in case we want to use multiple version of Java. So we can install this plugin, 𝗂𝗵𝗄𝗃 installer, right? So click on this and this will be installed in a few minutes or few seconds. Yeah, it's done. We can go to manage Jenkins again, tool section, then JDK. Okay, and here let us configure another JDK 17, install automatically, and here we can select this option adoptium.net. It is visible because we have just installed 𝗂𝗵𝗄𝗃 installer. Click on that and we can select the version. So I'm just going to go with 17. Click on apply. Now we have configured all the plugins. We have to now basically start writing the pipeline. So let us do that. Now first thing you have to do, click on new item. Here we'll type I'll provide the name as blogging app. Okay, and here select pipeline, click on OK. Okay, one more thing, team, very interesting thing I'll tell you. So basically in the newer version of Jenkins, what they have done, they have removed one specific feature, the stage view of the pipelines. When you run the pipeline, you see everything over stages, right? So that option is removed by default. What we have to do, we can simply search here as pipeline stage view. Make sure that this plugin is installed, then only you'll be able to see everything over stage view format. Okay, so yeah, it's done. Coming back to our pipeline, so first thing we have to do as part of best practice, click on this, and this is basically here you can define like how many builds you want in history to be visible. So generally I just keep 2 to save a lot of space. Okay, scroll down, and here in order to get started by writing pipeline, we can create a hello world pipeline, which is going to be very easy for us to work with. Okay, now this is done. Now what we can do, I can create multiple stages by using this. So I'll copy this, 1 stage, 2 stage, 3 stage, 4 stage, 5 stage. What we need to remember, no 2 stages can have same name, so make sure when you are modifying this, these names should be changed. Okay, now let us say that, you know, one thing you need to remember that when you are writing pipelines and you are going to utilize a lot of plugins tools, right? That means like we have configured Java, we have configured Maven, SonarQube. So whichever plugin you want to utilize within your pipeline, you need to manually define it somewhere. There are multiple ways of defining. For example, one way of defining Maven in Java is that I can use tools block. Inside that I can provide the details of that. For example, first the format is tools block, and inside then tool type. So for Java we have JDK tool type, and in single quote we need to provide the name that we configured in tool section. What do I mean by that? If I show you directly, if I go to manage Jenkins, then we have tool section. Here Java name, what I have configured, JDK 17. That means I need to put here as JDK 17. Similarly for Maven, so Maven is a tool type of Maven only. and tool name we configured was Maven 3. Okay, so in this way we have configured two kind of tools which can be easily utilized within the pipeline. Now team, the first step that we are going to have is the git checkout, basically creating a local copy of the repository that we have. Okay, so I'm going to provide the name as git checkout, and here we need to write the steps for git repository. Now for writing, in case if you are not aware like how exactly we have to write, you can take help from pipeline syntax. You can go into pipeline syntax, search for git and select that, and then we have to provide the repository URL. In our case, this is going to be repository URL is this one, right? I will copy that, paste it here. Then we have branch name we are having main. Okay, now as I mentioned, this repository is private, that's why we are getting error 128 because there is no credential present. So we have to add the credentials. So click on here, Jenkins, username which is going to be 𝗖𝗵𝗲𝗃246, password. So in place of password we have to put the token, GitHub token that we have created, personal access token. Copy that, paste it here. In ID you can write git cred or something like that. Description also I can just put the same thing, and we can select it now. As soon as selected, error is gone, right? Click on generate script, copy the steps, and simply we can paste it here. Next step that we need to write is the compile and test stage. So first of all, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a clone, a copy of that stages, and I'm going to here provide the name as compile. Compilation we have to do because what we want that we should be able to find out if there is any syntax based errors or not in the source code. So for that we need to do that, and I can run the command as mvn compile. But the thing is how Jenkins is going to understand that this command Jenkins has to run as a shell command. So for that we have to include it into shell. That we can do. First I'll include it into the double quotes, and then I'll write sh. That means now it's a shell command. After that I'm going to write here for test, and same thing we have to do here as well. sh double quotes mvn, then we have test. Okay, now let us save this. And after test, what I want to run 𝗵𝗃. 𝗵𝗃 is what? 𝗵𝗃 is a security tool that can be easily utilized to perform dependency check scan as well as file system scan. So here I can run the command fs scan. For writing 𝗵𝗃 commands, what we can do, so for 𝗵𝗃 also we are going to include the steps within shell block. So that we can do by writing first of all shell, then here we can write. So the command for 𝗵𝗃 is going to be like this, 𝗵𝗃. Now the thing that we want to scan, so in this case we want to scan for file system fs, then I want to define like in which format the report should be coming. So I can write like -- format, then the format that I want is table format I want. Okay, after that we need to define the output format, like in which file it should be like created in. So for that I can write -o, then the format file name which is going to be fs.html. okay, and after that we need to provide the information about which file or folder we need to scan. So I'll be just putting a dot, that means scan the current directory. Okay, now one thing you need to understand that okay, 𝗵𝗃 command we have written, but as of now we have not set up 𝗵𝗃. So how do we set up? So we'll go to Jenkins machine. Okay, and here we need to install 𝗵𝗃. Why? Because by default 𝗵𝗃 plugin is not available for Jenkins, so we need to install it. So I can go on Google and search as 𝗵𝗃 install. Click on the first link, get the command for based on your flavor of Linux machine, you can get the command and paste it on your virtual machine wherever you have Jenkins running. Let's wait for this, and I guess it's almost completed. So we are installing version 0.54.1. okay, so as soon as you install on this virtual machine, 𝗵𝗃 command will be able to run on this pipeline. Okay, so after 𝗵𝗃 we have added 𝗵𝗃 steps, we can add SonarQube steps. Okay, sorry, SonarQube only, SonarQube. Okay, now for writing SonarQube stages. So for that, first of all, what we need to do, two things you need to understand, team. In case of SonarQube, we have first of all SonarQube server and SonarQube scanner. Server is the location, the thing that we configured, it is server. So the reports will be coming here, right? Second thing, we have scanner. So scanner will be installed within Jenkins because it's going to perform the analysis, generate the report, and that report will be published here. Okay, so that is the main thing that you should understand. That means here, let me save this first. So that means we need to configure the SonarQube server as well. So where do we configure it? As I mentioned that we have to configure system, right? Inside system, we have to configure SonarQube server, right? So for that, first of all, go to credentials, click on global and add credentials. Here kind will be secret text. What is secret text going to be? The SonarQube token that we have generated, right? So copy that, paste it here, and ID will be something like that, sonar-token. Copy that and paste it here, click on create. That is done. Click on manage Jenkins again, go to system because the servers we configure inside system. Okay, here scroll down and you will be able to see some option with respect to SonarQube servers. Okay, click on add SonarQube. Let us provide a name as sonar-server, then URL we can select from here till 9000. We have to copy that, paste it here, remove the slash and 9000. Select the token here and click on apply. This part is done. Now SonarQube server is added within Jenkins. Go back to pipeline again, and as I mentioned, now we have to configure SonarQube scanner here because that is going to perform the analysis, generate the report, and publish it on the server, right? And as I mentioned, whichever tool you want to use in your pipeline, you need to define it. So how we are going to define SonarQube scanner? So for that, we need to create an environment. Okay, and inside this environment block, we are going to create another variable, scanner_home equal to tool, and inside tool we need to provide the name of SonarQube scanner that we configured. If I write sonar-scanner, from where this name is coming, so if I go to manage Jenkins, tools, scroll down to SonarQubes, you can see the name is Sonar Scanner, right? Same name I have put here. So once this is done, you can go back to SonarQube's analysis stage, and now we are going to take help from pipeline syntax. So click on that. Here with you'll be able to find something with SonarQube server or something like that. You can see with SonarQube environment. So click on that. And and this is the block which we are going to utilize. So I'll copy that, put here. Now let me explain you a little bit about this block so that you can understand very easily. Here you see one thing, that here we have mentioned credential ID. So basically this block, it assumes that we are going to provide the URL of SonarQube openly here, right, in these steps. But for that reason only we have selected token. So but the better way to do this is that since we have already configured the server with credentials, so we can simply provide that information here. Sonar server, what is this? So this is the server that we configured. Scroll down and here you'll be able to see Sonar server, and it has URL also and credential also, right? Same thing, I'm just calling it here so that we don't have to manually define URL or credential separately. Okay, so once you have done that, you can write the steps for analysis. I can write as such. Now here I'm going to use 3 codes. 3 codes means even if I write multiple lines of code, they are considered as single. Okay, now here the way that we are going to go, first of all, I'm going to call my environment, which is going to be scanner_home/bin/sonar-scanner. So what exactly is happening here? So basically, first of all, I'm calling the tool, and the executable file of a tool exists inside bin folder. So that's what I'm doing here. That's what I'm referring to. So that as soon as this is basically calling the tool or basically starting the tool. Okay. After that, we need to add some parameters, which is going to be sonar.project name, and you can see it's capital, so do not forget it. I'm going to write the name of the project as blogging-app. Okay, again one more parameter which is going to be 𝑑sonar.project key, K capital. Here I can write the same thing, which is going to be blogging app, and I can put here. Now let us write to next line. And so since we are using 3 quotes in after assets, that means it will be easily able to understand that okay, these multiple lines, they are in single. And another thing that we need to add here, which is going to be the sonar.java.binaries. Basically, since we are working with a Java project, so it requires the binaries file location, which exists. I'm going to provide the name as target, and we can close this. Now this is SonarQube analysis stages add. Next up, what I'm going to add the build step, and here I can simply write as sh double quotes mvn package. Okay, so once we have let's see if we are missing anything. Okay, we have closed this, right? Okay, we'll see it later on. I don't see any specific issue here, but okay, let us save it and let's see. Okay, no issues. Error is gone actually. Okay, so now we have built the application. Now what we need to do, the artifact that is getting generated by building the application, we need to publish it on Nexus. So for that, what we have to do, let me explain you that as well. Now, in order to publish our artifact to Nexus, what we have to do, 2 things we need to do. First of all, we need to make sure that Jenkins is able to communicate or connect to Nexus repository. And secondly, we need to make sure that URL of Nexus repository and credentials is available for Jenkins to utilize. So now, for adding the URL, what we have to do, we have to go to the repository, go to pom.xml file, edit this, and at the end, we have to add here this section, distribution management. So here you can see we are adding repositories. Okay, so repository ID and the URL we have to add. So how we can get it? For that, you can go to Nexus, go to browse, Maven releases and Maven snapshot we have to do. Okay, so first of all, I'll copy this. This is the Maven release URL. I will paste here. Okay, and same thing we have to do for Maven snapshots. So I'll copy this as well and add it here. Okay, so URL is added. Now we have to add the credential for Nexus. So where do we do that? So for that, you have to go to Jenkins, go to manage Jenkins, and here you see the section managed files. These are available because we installed the plugin config file provider. So click on that, click on add new config, global Maven settings, scroll down. Here we can provide the name as Maven-settings. Okay, click on next, and this file that you see, which is settings.xml file, inside which we are going to add the credentials. So scroll down and let's see, proxy server. Okay, so we have server, so I'm going to remove these and I'm going to add to the seams. Okay, this is done. 2 copies you need to create for this, one for Maven releases, one for snapshots. Here we need to provide the Maven release name, basically ID. So it's quite simple, you can just provide the name, Maven releases, Maven snapshots. So here I'm going to write Maven-releases and username and password. So username and password, it's going to be admin username, and password the one that you set up for your Nexus. So I'm going to write Aditya, that is the one that I set up. Similarly, here we need to provide Maven-snapshots, then username and password, which is going to be username is admin, password is Aditya. Okay, This is done, click on save, and this settings file is created. Now we will be able to communicate with Nexus. Okay, let me show you how we are going to do that as well. So yeah, since we are going to need more stages also, so let me create few more. Okay, here we are going to write publish artifacts. And here again, for writing this, what we can do, we can take help from pipeline syntax. Here with Maven, select this one with Maven, select the Maven version, select JDK, then scroll down to global Maven settings, and this is the one that we are going to utilize. Click on generate. Okay, I'll copy this and I'll paste it here. Now here global Maven settings file, you can see the ID is same that we configured for our settings.xml file, right? So here we can write the command for publishing the artifact, which is going to be sh mvn deploy. This command mvn deploy is going to publish the artifact or deploy the artifact to third-party Nexus repository. Okay, so let us save this. Okay, and now maybe what we can do, we can test it out, this much pipeline, whatever we have written as of now, so we can confirm that it's running fine. So let me build this and let's see if there is any errors. As soon as you run it for the first time, it's going to install all the tools mentioned in the pipeline. You can see here Sonar Scanner, JDK 17. These are we have mentioned in the pipeline, right? That's why it's getting installed, and this happens just for the first time. So yeah, just be patient. And you can see this stage view also coming. That means this is coming because that we installed that plugin, this pipeline stage view. Okay, let's check out the logs again, and then we can confirm that it's working. Okay, let's wait for this. So testing done. You can see there was just one test cases that is done, build success. 𝗵𝗲 command is running and it has generated the report as well. So 𝗵𝗲 is done. Now it's running the SonarQube analysis. So let's wait for this to complete. One question you might be thinking, 𝗂𝗶𝗹𝗃, why did you run right now and not like after writing whole stages? Because with respect to Nexus, I wanted to show you something. Because yesterday only there was one guy who asked a question because he was facing one issue in Nexus. And most of you might be facing that issue. So in order to show you like what exactly is the issue and how exactly we can resolve it, I'll explain. Okay, let's wait for this to complete. Yeah, so this is done. And now if I go to Nexus, then Maven snapshots, you can see this is the jar file. Okay, but the problem is if I run the pipeline again, it's going to fail at Nexus stage. Why it's going to fail, let me explain you. Okay, so for that, first of all, we need to log into Nexus. Username and password, which is admin, and password is Aditya. Click on sign in. Once you sign in, you will see this option settings. Click on that, click on repositories, click on snapshots, scroll down and you will see this option deployment policy. In case this is disabled, then you won't be able to publish your artifact, same artifact multiple times. So in order to make sure that you are able to publish, make sure that it is set up to allow redeploy. Okay, that's the issue that most people are facing, because when they set up Nexus server by default it might be disable redeploy. If it's like that, disable redeploy, then you won't be able to deploy the same files again and again, right? So we'll just keep it as allow redeploy. Okay, yeah. Now coming back here, so we have as of now, yeah, test cases running fine. We have the artifacts also ready. This is also fine. And yeah, now what we can do, we can get started by writing the code for creating a Docker image and pushing the Docker image to Docker Hub repository. So let us do that as well. Now what we have to do, we have to write these steps first. Docker. Okay, now for this project, what I want to push the repository to a private Docker registry. So what we can do for that, first of all, log into Docker Hub with your account, click on create repository, and let us create a private repository which is going to be named as logging app. Okay, click on private and create it. Okay, so this is the repository name, right? And to this we are going to push our artifact, and this is private. The reason that I'm using private because I wanted to show you how we are using basically how we are utilizing private images in Kubernetes as well. Okay, so let's wait for this to, yeah, this is done already. So we can go back and now we can go to pipeline syntax here with you can go to with Docker registry, select the credentials. So credentials we need to set up. You need to provide your username, Docker Hub username, and the password for the same. Let me just confirm. Okay, in ID you can provide a name like Docker Cred or something like that, and we can create this credentials. Okay, select the credentials, installation that we done. Here we don't have to put anything because as of now we are using Docker Hub, so for that you don't have to put anything. In case you are using a custom registry, then you have to provide a registry URL. This block is created, we are going to copy that and paste it here. This name will be Docker build and tag. Okay, and here we can write the commands. So command we are going to write. Okay, one more thing team, do not forget that this command that you are running, we have to enclose it inside the script, then only it will work. Script, and we can enclose this. Okay, here we can write the steps. I can write sh double quotes docker build -t, then the Docker image name that image name that we want to give. I want to give as 𝗖𝗁 slash the image private registry that we created, which is going to be this one. Copy that. Okay, colon latest. Okay, dot. This dot means that we are saying that the Docker file is present on the current directory itself. Okay, now this command is going to build the Docker image and tag it to this name itself. Okay, this is good. Now once we have tagged the Docker image, what we want to scan the Docker image so that before we push this Docker image to Docker Hub repository, it should be scanned for vulnerabilities, if it is having any kind of vulnerabilities or not. So for that, again, I can copy this stage, scroll down, and here we can add it. Here instead of fs we can write image, and here also image table, and file of output file name is also I'm going to write like image.html, and instead of dot we need to provide the name of a Docker image, which is going to be this one, right? Copy that and paste it. Yeah, and after scanning is done, we are going to publish it. So I can create this stage, and here I can Docker push image, and here I can write the command as Docker push. Make sure to remove the dot. Okay, so now we can run this, and now we can check it if it is working fine or not. As I say that this is now private Docker repository, right? Okay, now one concern I have is that if Trivy will be able to access this Docker image or not, but if not, then we have to provide some credentials. But yeah, let us check it out. I can run this now. Okay, and since it does not require to install any new dependencies, so this might be taking less time than the first one. You can see that now, right? 6 seconds, 3 seconds, then 4 seconds, 1 second. Okay, so yeah, let's wait for a few more minutes and then we'll see what happens. We can check out logs as well, so we can get the information in a little bit more detail. Okay, so now it's deploying to Nexus, and see, this time we won't be getting any issues because redeployment is allowed. Okay, so let's wait for this. Now it's in Docker. It's building the Docker image. Here also you can see like we are using JDK 17, okay, not JDK 11 or so. This is done, and now Trivy is performing the scan. Okay, let's wait for this also to complete. So Trivy was able to get the Docker image. Why it was able to get? Because Docker image was present on the local machine itself. That's why it was able to get. Okay, and fine. So this is fine, and we can check out here. I can refresh the page. We have the Docker image available. Okay, so this is good, and also great thing is that the size you can see of the Docker image, it's around just 200 MB. Why? Because I'm using a very small base image. Okay, so this part is done, and this is quite good. Now what we can do, we can write the commands for deployment of application to Kubernetes cluster. For Kubernetes cluster, we are going to utilize EKS cluster. We are going to set up EKS cluster. So let us do that as well. So team, next step would be to set up a EKS cluster where we are going to deploy the application. So for that, you can utilize the Terraform commands. Okay, because see, if you are using Terraform, it will also be helping us to understand the IAC part, infrastructure as code. So what I have done, I have simply kept the Terraform code here itself. Talking about this code, so it's completely variable format. You don't have to like, it's not hard coded. The only thing that you might be needing to change is, first of all, if you are not in India, then you might to have to change the availability zones. Okay, and other than that, there was one more thing, which is the SSH key name. So in my case, I'm using the SSH key. If I go to variable, this is devops.pem. If you have anything else, you can just change it here. Rest, you can just keep it as it is. Now, in order to do this thing, what we have to do, first of all, I'm going to create a virtual machine from where we need to run these commands. Okay, so give me 1 second. Run this command, and 1 second, let me log in actually. 𝗵𝗁𝗂𝗃𝗃𝗁𝗃. Okay, so yeah, once we have logged in, what we can do, we can create an instance from where we can run the commands. So I can name this command instance as Terra instance. Okay, and this will be again Ubuntu machine. Size will be T2 medium is fine. We don't have to take a much bigger machine. Key is this one, and security group, the one that I just showed you. Storage, we can go with 15 also, it's fine, because just we have to run the Terraform commands, right? So I can refresh the page, get the public IP address, and let us connect to it. Rename this, sorry, we need to first create a duplicate session. Rename this to Terraform. I can just write, change this, change color also if needed, that's fine. Okay, and let us connect to it. So yeah, this might take a little bit of time because as of now it's in pending state. Yeah, it's connected. First command, sudo apt update. Sorry about that, I'm not sure why I'm typing so fast. Okay, so yeah, sudo apt update, and after that, two things we have to do. We have to install AWS CLI, which is going to be utilized to communicate with AWS account, and second, we have to install Terraform. Okay, so meanwhile it is getting done, we can get the commands. Let me, yeah, here first we have to install AWS CLI. So I'm going to copy this and let us run directly, and once that is being done, we can get the commands for Terraform installation. Okay, yeah, this is done. I can simply type here as Terraform, and I think through snap we can install. Type this, and here make sure that you are adding classic, because if not you are going to get issues. Let me show you what issue. You can see the revision of snap Terraform was published using classic confinement. That means we need to use classic. Click enter, and then it's going to install Terraform. So let's wait for it. Meanwhile it is getting installed, what we need to do, we need to two things we can do. See, as I mentioned, AWS CLI we are going to utilize to communicate with AWS, right? So for that we'll be needing a credential. Two ways you can go ahead with. For demo purpose you can go ahead with your root credentials, or if you don't want to use root credentials, you need to create a separate user provided certain different roles. Then you need to create a credential of it. For this demo purpose I'm just going to go with my root credential. Click on your username, security credentials, and here we need to generate a security credential for us. And let's scroll down. Here you can see access key is 0, so click on create key, click on this and create access key. You can download the CSV file also, but I'll just copy from here itself. Okay, so Terraform is installed, AWS CLI is installed, right? I can run the command as ws configure. Okay, we have some issue. Let me check. So sorry, this was wrong command, my mistake. Yeah, here we need to provide the access key ID, that is here access key, paste it here, then access secret access key, which is also this one, so I can copy that, paste it here, and then default region name. Here you need to put the region in which you want to create resources. I'm going to go with AP-South-1, click enter, and again click enter. Now we are connected to our AWS account. Now we can run the Terraform command. So for that, first of all, I'm going to create a folder, just Terra, go inside it, and we have to create the files, which is going to be main.tf first, and main.tf file we can get from here. Copy that and paste it here, save this. Similarly, we are going to create output.tf. That also we can get the command from repository. We can paste it, save this as well. Third thing that we need to create is going to be third file, which is variables.tf file. So copy that as well, go here and create variables.tf, save this. Okay, now we can run the command. First we need to run terraform init, which is going to initialize this folder with whatever files are required for Terraform to like set up the yeah, you can see it has initialized. Basically, you know, it's going to download all the files needed for the Terraform to run. Okay, and now, so next up what we can do, we can run Terraform plan, which is going to tell us like what kind of resources or what kind of services it's going to create. You can see it says in total it's going to create 17 services. So basically, you know, through this command it's going to create all the these things like VPC, security group, everything is going to be completely new. Okay, so let us apply these changes. Terraform apply, and I'm going to give an auto approve also, auto dash approve. Okay, and let's wait for this to complete. Now this might take a little bit of time because it's going to create a lot of resources. You can see 17 resources, and you can see here it's going to create IAM rules, VPC, subnet, internet gateway, security group, route table, lot of things. So because of that, it's going to take at least 5 to 10 minutes. For that we have to wait. Okay, that cluster is created and it took almost like I think 10 minutes it took in total. Okay, So now what we have to do, first of all, let's say we have we can run this command 𝗂𝗶𝗃 get nodes, but this will give error. Why it's going to give error? First of all, we do not have 𝗂𝗶𝗃 installed on our machine, right? That means we need to first install 𝗂𝗶𝗃. So let's do that, and I think we can install it using snap. Okay, let me see that. Sudo snap install 𝗂𝗶𝗃 --classic, and yeah, so 𝗂𝗶𝗃 is present in a snap package and we can install it. After 𝗂𝗶𝗃 is installed, one more thing we need to do. Basically, we have created the cluster, EKS cluster we have created, but we have not yet connected to it. That means we need to connect to it as well. And how we can do that? So if I show you, this is the command AWS CKS region. But basically it's going to create or set up a kubeconfig file which can be used for authentication as well. So we just have to run this command with our cluster name, which is going to be this one. You can see all the details are here. Cluster name is this, region you need to put, and you can run this command. After you have done this, if I run now as 𝗂𝗶𝗃 get nodes, you can see these three are the worker nodes, and now we are connected to our EKS cluster. And best part is that we have set up the latest version 1.30. okay, so this part is done. Now what we have to do, we have to do one more thing, which is RBAC. As you know, role-based access control is one of the most important concept of Kubernetes. So we have to, in order to perform deployment, we have to make sure that everything is done properly. Okay. So for that, what we are going to do, we are going to set up a service account first, and later on, we are going to give all the permission to this service account for performing the deployment. So let us do that one by one. So let us come out of this folder first. Okay. And I'm going to create a file, 𝗵𝗁𝗁. okay, paste the contents here. Okay, now you see that I'm creating this service account inside namespace web apps, right? That means we need to make sure that web apps namespace is present. So first let me save this, and now I can run the command as kubectl create ns web apps, and this is created, right? That means now I can create the service account also. kubectl apply -f 𝗗𝗄𝗃, and this service account created inside namespace web apps. Okay. After that, I'm going to create a role that inside the web apps that we are going to assign to service account Jenkins. Okay. So let us do that as well. Role.yaml, paste it here, save this, and then kubectl apply -f role. Okay. Role is also created. Next step is to assign this role to the service account. That we can do from here. Copy that. Then vi bind.yaml, paste the contents of it, save this, and kubectl apply -f, then bind. Now the service account that we created, the Jenkins service account, it is having the permission to perform the deployment as well as update it or delete it. Okay. Next up, we need to create a token for our service account Jenkins. For that, you can click on the given link, and we need to create a token. So I'll copy on this. It's a secret specifically for like basically creating a authentication for this service account from Jenkins. So I'm going to create this vi, then jen.yaml, maybe proper name would be good, Jenkins secret.yaml, paste it here. Okay, now what things we have to update here? First of all, service account name. In our case, service account name is Jenkins, right? So I can close, I can write it here, save this. Now you have to run this command kubectl apply -f Jenkins secret, and make sure that you are running this inside web apps. Okay, because that's where we are creating all the resources. So this is done. Now one last thing we have to do. As I mentioned that we are using a private Docker registry, right? We are using the Docker image is present on private Docker registry. That means in order for this deployment YAML file to be utilized by Kubernetes, we need to provide the secret also, which is going to be the secret or credentials to private Docker registry, right? So we need to create this secret. So for that, you have to simply go here and run this kind of command. Okay, so I'll copy that, go here and paste here. Now we have to update this. First I'll run provide the username, which is going to be this 𝗖𝗂, and then the password. So password, let's say something like XYZ or something. Once you do this, paste it, and then you have to run this. Okay, so we created the secret, but the problem, that might be the issue, is that this secret is not created in web apps namespace. That means we need to create this secret inside web apps namespace. Okay, let us create the secret inside web apps namespace. Okay, I can run this command, and yeah, this is done. Now we should be able to deploy the application properly. So team, now we have created this secret for the image to pull from the private registry, right? But still we have not created the secret which will be used for authentication from Jenkins to Kubernetes. And if you see there, if I try to show you kubectl git secrets -n web apps, you can see there are two secrets, right? One is from for the image pull secret, and second is going to be the token used for authentication for the service account. So what I'm going to do, kubectl describe secret, and then the secret name -n web apps. This should be able to give us a token which we can utilize for authentication. Okay, so we can copy from here to here. Let us paste it here. Okay, now we can go back to Jenkins. Let me save this, and let us go to manage Jenkins, credentials, and then we can provide the information here. We can add any credential which is going to be secret text. We can paste the secret text, and it's going to be 𝗂𝗄𝗃. Okay, same thing I can put here. Click on create. So this is done. Now we can modify our pipeline. Click on configure, scroll down, and here we need to write the stages, right? We need to add more stage, which is going to be, let me first create a stage. This is the small one, so I can copy this and let me create. Okay, so first of all, let us rename this to 𝗂𝗄𝗃-deploy, and here we have to add the stages, right? So for that, I'm going to take help from pipeline syntax, and here we'll find something with respect to Kubernetes. Let us check it out with something with kubectl, or yeah, this one we can use. Credentials, select the one that we configured, Kubernetes server endpoint, so that we can get. If I go to here, where is it? I can search here as EKS, go on this, and the cluster that we just created, sorry, it should be in Mumbai region. This is the cluster, and you can see this is the API server endpoint. So copy that, paste it here. Talking about cluster name, so we have, this is the cluster name, copy that as well, paste it here. Context name, leave it. Web namespace is going to be web apps. Okay, and copy and generate the block. Once the block is generated, we can paste it here. Okay, and here we can write the steps for deployment. So I can write as such kubectl apply -f, then the YAML file name. In our case, the YAML file name is this one, so I'll copy that, paste it here. Now one thing you might be facing issue with, Jenkins do not have kubectl installed. That means we need to make sure that Jenkins has that. So I can run the command here as sudo snap install, and here I can write kubectl. Sorry, I have to add classic also. And this should be able to install kubectl, and once that is done, then we'll be able to perform the deployment. Meanwhile, going back here, yeah, this. So after deployment is done, what I want this to wait for 30 seconds or maybe 20 seconds. Okay, and then I'll run it again. Okay, and this will be verification of deployment. So we can run verify the deployment. Remove the sleep command, and here I can run the command as kubectl get pods, and similarly I will be running the command to kubectl, and this will be get svc. Okay, now this will complete the deployment, but yeah, last stage that we want to add here, which is going to be notification email. So what we want that as soon as this pipeline is completed or failed any of the case, we should be receiving a notification. Okay, so let us configure that as well. Now team, what we have to do, we have to configure the email notification. So for the code, you'll be able to find in the source code. Okay, this we are not going in very much deep, but just to let you know that this is added on the pipeline level. That means it is added on this level. Okay, that means after the stages are completed. So yeah, for that I have added after on the pipeline level. Okay, another thing that you have to modify here is the to, from, reply to. Okay, these things you have to modify. Okay, now talking about how we can configure it. So for that, first of all, we'll go to dashboard, manage Jenkins. Here we have to go to system, and here we have to scroll down till we find something with respect to like email notification or extended email notification. So let us see. And yeah, you can see extended email notification, and we have email notification. Okay, so we can test it out. Now before that, what we have to do, we have to go to on let me show you, where is it here? Yeah, so we have to go on this location. So I'll copy that. Basically we have to generate a password that is going to be app password. Basically using that password nobody can log into your account, but that password will be utilized by Jenkins for the mail notification. So I can paste it here, this URL, and then it's going to take me to this location where I have to paste my basically provide my password. Let me do it. Sorry about that. Okay, and we are logging into, so here I can provide any name like Jenkins, create the password. Now once this password is created, I'll copy that and I'll keep it saved somewhere. So I'll keep it here. Now we can go back to Jenkins. Okay, and here from extended email notification, first of all, smtp.gmail.com that we provided. One more thing, the specific port needs to be opened for this. So if I go to EC2 security groups, and here we have primary, you see this port 465. Make sure to open it because this is the port for SMTP for Gmail. Okay, so once you have done that, here we have advanced. So this too we need to enable. Here we need to provide the email address, which is going to be this 46@gmail.com, and then the password that we have just created. Okay, app password that we created. So I can copy this again, paste it here, and make sure it's SSL enabled. Okay, SMTP port 465, this is fine. Click on this and test email notifications. So here what I'm going to do, I'm going to write my own email, and let us see if we are able to receive the email or not. It says email was successfully sent. We can verify this by going to email. You can see this email. Okay, this is test email. This is fine. Now we can configure the same thing for extended email notification, which is above it. Let me configure this properly. SMTP server smtp.gmail.com, port will be 465. Advanced credentials we can select. Let me set up a credential also, so we can provide the email address 46@gmail.com. Password is going to be the app password that we just created. Okay, and copy it and paste it here. This will be, we can write like mail cred and add this, and next we can select it also. Then make sure SSL is checked, and then we have anything else. Let's check out. Seems fine to me. Okay, so this is fine. And yeah, this also code you have to make sure that you are adding it on pipeline level, not the stage level. Okay, and all the code, yeah, this part also we have to modify. You can provide your email. Basically, see, if someone wants to reply back to the email, so they will be replying to this email, jenkins@example.com, or whichever you want to configure. So click on apply and let us run this and let's see what happens. There is a good probability that we might be facing issues because a lot of things have been configured and we have to test now properly. Okay, so yeah, let's see how it goes. Also team, do not forget to subscribe to the channel. You'll find a lot of amazing videos and new projects. Okay, and all the information about the batch also will be in the description, so you can check out that as well. Let's wait for this to complete. This might take actually some time, I believe. Sonar is done. Sonar is also success. Okay, just to show you, if I go to SonarQube, here you can see the issues. Okay, 8 bugs and so and so. Coming back. Okay, so we are in Docker stage now, and let's see what happens here. Pushing happening, scanning is done, and kubectl apply. So now you see from the logs, deployment is done. Okay, but as I say, once deployment is done, we are not going to just leave it there. We are going to first configure a custom domain to it for our deployment, and then we are going to access the deployment through that as well. Okay, so load balancer URL we can access our application using this just for testing purpose and sending mail. So let us check out the mail as well. Now you can see this mail. If I expand it, we have all the information that we provided. Reply to this. Okay, and since it is success, we got this format. Okay, console output can be accessed from here. So let us access the application one time here. Okay, so as we can see, application is actually running fine, and you can see the design, it's quite minimal. So let us test it now. Then we are going to assign the custom domain for it. Okay, so I can click on register with some username and password, click on register. Then we can log in also with the same credentials. Okay, it's a blogging app, so we can just add some post. Let's say XYZ. Okay, and let us add one more post, which is going to be ABC. Now let us log out. Let us register with a different account. Admin 123, login, admin 123. Okay, good thing about that is for the posts that were created by other people, they are also visible to us, and then we can add our own post, something like this. Okay, so all the posts that any other person, any other user, that whoever is creating, everything will be able to see here. Okay, so yeah, this is done, and we can log out, and yeah, it gives little bit this minimal design, log out successful, something like that. So this is a quite good application, it's having front end also, a back end also, and it's using H2 as database. Okay, that's created dynamically only. So yeah, this is quite good application, and you can click on these things also to these buttons are also working fine. Okay, so yeah, check this application out, and then you can let me know. Now let's go back. Now let's start configuring custom domain for this application. So team, now what we have to do, so my domain, custom domain is available on GoDaddy. So this is the one that I'm going to utilize, 𝗖ecie testing. Here we can click on domain, then click on manage DNS. And let's wait for this to pop up, and then we can customize it. Now there are different kind of records, right? So two things you need to understand very clearly. If you are configuring, we are basically assigning an IP address. Basically, see, let's say as of now, what is the thing here? We are having a Amazon kind of URL, right? AmazonAWS.com. So this is a URL. Okay, this is not an IP address. So in case of URL, you need to use CNAME record. In case of like IP addresses, you need to use a different record. Okay. So here, what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on this and remove this and provide the new one that we have. Okay, I'll copy this and go back to GoDaddy, paste here. Let me remove the I'll remove this. Okay, now once you you just have to change this. Rest you can just keep it same. Also, if CNAME is not present, just click on create add new record and select the CNAME and provide these things, table w, then load balancer URL. Okay, click on save. Now this, in order to for this to get populated, it may take few minutes. Okay, so we need to wait for it. So team, yeah, it's been quite some time, so now we can test it out. We can run the command here, ns lookup www.𝗖cie testing.in. We can run this, and here you can see name and address. They are the ones that we assigned, right? They are mapped now. That means if I run this on browser, we should be able to access our deployed application. Let us try this as well. Yes, you can see now it is pointing to the that load balancer URL, right? And using this URL, now we are able to access our application. This is quite good, right? And everything should be working fine. We can just test it out. We can log in actually directly. Aditya123, click on login, and we are okay. I guess it's not registered. Let me register it. Yeah, 1 2 3. Yes, now we are here. Okay, it's great. So yeah, this URL is working fine and it's quite good, and this project is quite good, right? Now what I want to monitor this project also. Okay, so let us do that as well. So team, now we are going to set up monitoring part for the application. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to basically create a virtual machine, and let's call it as monitor. And we are going to install 3 applications on the same machine. So for that reason, I'm going to take a bigger machine, which is going to be T2 large, and this is the key, and this is going to be the security group, and storage I'm going to go with 25, creating the machine. And where is it? This one. So let us connect to this machine and let us start monitoring part. Okay, and let me create a duplicate session, rename this, change the IP address, and this is going to be monitoring. Okay, let us keep it as orange. Okay, now let us connect to this machine. So first command, as I have always told, sudo apt update, right? So while this command is running, meanwhile we can check out like from where we need to install the tools. So first we need to search here prometheus.io, and here click on downloads. Now here we are going to find the whatever files we need to download and use it. So for Linux we have, so first I'm going to copy this and extract it here. Sorry, download it here. Sorry about that. We need to get the URL. So I'll right click, get the link address, and then I'll run the command as wget this one. Okay, and now it will be able to download. So we can see this file is downloaded. So I'm going to extract it, tar-xvf, then Prometheus. Okay, So this is done, and now we have two folders. So first of all, I'm going to remove this Prometheus tar file. Okay, and let us rename this also to something very smaller. I'm just going to call as Prometheus folder. Okay, right. Next thing that we need to install or download, which is going to be Blackbox, this one. So I'm going to again get the URL, go back to machine and run the command as wget download the file and extract it tar-xvf and then the file name. Okay, this is done, and let us remove the tar file, which is going to be this. Okay, and let us rename also Blackbox folder so that it's easier to use. Just going to call it as Blackbox. Okay, so now we have these two things are ready. One last thing that we need to do is install Grafana for usage. So let me, you can search simply grafana.com, Grafana download. Okay, and here we have the commands to run. So let us do this. I'll copy this command, run here. Second command we have, which is this one, downloading a deb file, deb package. And then we need to depackage it. Okay, run this. Let's wait for this to complete. Okay, and here what it says, you can start the Grafana server by running this. So I will copy this command and run this. Okay, now Grafana will be available on port, I think 3000. So let us test it. We can get the URL, paste it here, :3000, and it's working, right? Default username password is going to be admin, so we are going to log into it, and here we need to set up new password. So let us do that as well. Okay, and Grafana is set up, right? Coming back, now we have to set up and configure the Prometheus and Blackbox, right? These two files. Okay, let me remove Grafana the package also. Okay, now let us go inside Prometheus first. We have these things, right? So in order to start running the Prometheus, we can simply run it, the executable file, which is going to be this one, and put an ampersand so that this runs in background. Okay, and we can access it on port 9090. So let us do that as well. Get the IP address, paste it here, and it's going to be 9090, right? And yeah, it is running. Status, we can go to targets. As of now, only local metrics are there, right? We have to add the metrics for Blackbox. So let us do that. Let us go inside Blackbox folder as well. Yeah, so let us execute this as well. Okay, ampersand, and this will be running on port 9115, right? So let us access that as well. So Blackbox is running, right? Next thing what we have to do, we need to go on a repository of this one. This is the Blackbox repository inside Prometheus. So what you have to do, you have to copy from here till job. Okay, copy that, go inside Prometheus. You'll be able to see one YAML file. So we need to run this YAML. So we need to modify this YAML basically. Okay, and we have to put it below job. Okay, so I'll paste it here. Just make sure that indentation is correct. Okay, after that we need to provide the IP address where Blackbox is running, right? In our case, it's running on the same machine. That means I can simply leave it as it is, like the this one, localhost, right? In case if your black box and SonarQube, black box and Prometheus are running on different machine, you need to provide the IP address, right? Like this. Here also, see, it won't be having an issue even if I put IP address, so I can just put it. Okay. Next thing that we need to do is modify the URLs that we want to monitor. In my case, I want to monitor. Just put the URL here. We'll monitor this one. Let us check if it is running. Yeah. So I will get this and I can paste it here. Okay. This is done. And next, anything else you want to monitor, you can put the details as well. Okay. I'll just remove this because I just need to monitor the website. Okay. This is fine. We can save this. Okay. And we need to restart Prometheus. So I'll run the command pgrep then Prometheus, which is going to give me a process ID. I can simply kill this process 2252 and I can restart Prometheus again. Okay. Sorry. We need to run it in ampersand so that it runs in background. Okay. So I have started Prometheus again and let us see if the changes that we just put, they are reflecting or not. So we can go here, search the page again, and you can see it says black box is added, but it's not up because it may take few seconds to completely come in running state. So we can refresh the page and you can see now it's in running state. Okay. And here we have the target and the URL that we want to monitor. Okay. Now what we can do, we can go back to Grafana, and here first of all we need to go to administration. Where is it? 1 second. Connection, data sources. In connection, go to data sources, click on add data source, select Prometheus. Okay, and here we need to provide the URL where Prometheus is running. So Prometheus is running on this URL, right? So I'll copy that, paste it here, scroll down. See, as of now we have no authentication, that's why I'm not choosing any kind of authentication. Scroll down and save and test, and it's working fine, right? Next up, what we have to do, we have to create a dashboard. So we can click on import dashboard, and here we need to provide the ID. Okay, where we can get ID, so I can search here as black box dashboard ID. You can click on the first one, scroll down, and we should be able to see something. Copy ID. So I have copied the ID. I can go back to here, paste the ID here, click on load, select the data source and click on import. Now this thing that you are seeing, this is the data that is coming after we are this is being monitored. Okay, you can see this is the URL. Okay, let me make it to last 5 minutes and let me make it to refresh every 5 seconds. Okay, so whatever data that you are getting here now, it's coming from monitoring two websites, prometheus.io and aditya-testing.in. Okay, all those things are coming. So now we are able to monitor also properly, and every 5 seconds it's getting refreshed also. You can see this flickering that is happening because it is getting refreshed. Okay, what things we are getting? We are getting HTTP duration and probe duration. These two things, these two kind of data that we are using for monitoring. Okay, so yeah, this is how monitoring can be done for this application, and I hope this application was quite useful for you. You got to learn something today. Okay, if so, make sure to subscribe, and if you are new to the channel, yeah, if so, you can give it a like, and if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. So yeah, thank you all for watching, and have a nice day.